The next biggest thing. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. So, I just got back from going to see the movie Michael in IMAX theaters. And in this video, I want to just talk about, give it a very, very informal review and just share my thoughts about the movie and the things that kind of stood out the most. So, warning, this may or may not be a spoiler alert type of video. I'm going to try really hard not to talk about super specific things and just general, the general ideas and the things that just stood out to me the most about the movie. So, hey, if you don't want to hear too much detail or anything like that about the movie, don't even bother watching the video. But if you want to just sit and chat, hear my thoughts about it, maybe you've gone to see it, you know, um, let's just sit and chat and talk about the movie. Just want to give you kind of like a little bit of a backstory with me. Your girl is a huge Michael Jackson fan. I love Michael Jackson. I've always loved him ever since I was a kid. The 80s, grew up listening to Michael all throughout, his, career from the 80s on. And even loved like the Jackson 5 and stuff like that. But didn't really get into that until like a little bit, once I was a little bit older. But in any event, huge Michael Jackson fan. As you can see, I had some special wardrobe going. That thing is nice. Love this shirt. It just sparkles off that white. It just looks really good. But anyway, so had to do my little ode to Michael Jackson when I went to go see that movie. But you might also have noticed too in some of my previous videos where I recorded the video in my room. I have a watercolor of Michael Jackson hanging on my wall. I don't know if I've ever caught like the whole entire picture or the whole portrait. It's just like a small portrait. It's not like huge or anything like that. And I also have a Thriller jacket, an authentic leather Thriller jacket, which I neglected to break out and put on for this video. But just to kind of give you an idea that the level at which, Mike plays a role in, my music and my music interests, right? So I'm just a huge, huge Michael Jackson fan, like many others. And also, fun fact, I danced to Michael Jackson in my fifth grade talent show. It's one of my many crowning achievements. I received a standing ovation. Actually, I did. I danced to a medley. I think about 3 or 4 Michael Jackson songs. It was great. He had to be there eons ago. But anyway, I digress. Just to kind of give you an idea. So this, review is just coming from really a fangirl kind of perspective, okay? And I just want to just talk about it. What I thought about the movie and what the things that just stood out the most to me. So overall, the movie was really good. I mean, I enjoyed it. I had kind of been watching a couple of other YouTube reviews of the movie just to kind of get an idea of what to expect. Because to me, like, I don't really, spoiler alerts don't really ruin a movie for me. Like, I can take in the information and still like put it off to the side or disregard it. When it comes to me wanting to see a movie, they don't really like ruin it for me per se. It's unless it like really just completely says like, okay, this is how the movie ends. I don't really like those kind of things, but if I can find like general reviews or whatever, just to kind of get an idea of what I'm about to see, I don't really mind those. So I kind of had an idea of what to expect, but ultimately, one thing about the movie is, this movie doesn't really surround any of like the controversy about his life or, any of that stuff. It doesn't cover all of the controversial topics and all of that stuff. It sheds some light on some controversial things as far as his appearance, but it just provides you some insight. Not necessarily doesn't really go into detail about anything. You kind of get a glimpse of what was happening throughout, that timeline, which could, foreshadow the things that would happen with him later on in his career. But ultimately, if you are anticipating going to see the movie and you're thinking it's going to be talking about all of the like controversial stuff or anything, it's not going to. It's literally, to me, it just really focuses more on his character and just kind of, it really kind of fast forwards through a lot of the decades of his performing career, but only it stops at like 1988. So it doesn't cover the entire span of his career. And I think they did a really good job of kind of getting to the point with a lot of the, different, all of the different decades throughout his career that they do cover. So, and I mean, it's so much that they compacted down in 2 hours, and I think they did a pretty good job. I don't think they particularly fast forwarded through it too much. Like it does, they do kind of get to it though. Like they hit, it's like they hit all of the main things you'd want to see, I guess, in that time period. They, shed a little bit of light on, but ultimately the biggest thing the movie focuses on, in my opinion, is the dynamic of the relationship between Michael and his father, Joe Jackson. So it really just focuses on that the most. And we've seen, the Michael Jackson fans, we've seen American Dream, so we already know like the dramatic, detailed more side of the story. And this wasn't really that. Joe was still the same Joe though. If you can kind of recall how he was in American Dream and just recount, if you've ever seen any like documentaries or any other types of things where they portray Joe as pretty much mean and very strict, pretty much the same. Like his character wasn't any different in this. So I think, they kind of stayed true to that. But ultimately, I think that that's really what the movie more so focuses on, is that relationship, and then more so Michael as, his character, like the type of person that he was. And it's really to, I think, to shed a positive light on, certain aspects of, the type of person that he was. So I thought it was really good. Um, I think the nephew, Jafar Jackson, he did a really good job portraying Michael. I mean, at some points in the movie, he looks exactly like him. For the most part, you can see the difference. But in some parts, though, some of the performances and things, you're like, okay, like, looks kind of like Michael, or just some of the close-ups that they do. He looks just like him in some of the clips. I don't think all throughout the movie though, but you could tell he had to work really hard to get like the moves and the dance moves and stuff like that down. And if you're going to see, like, as someone who, I go and I often watch performances of Michael, like old performances, and like when people, like with Michael Jackson impersonators and stuff, just kind of see how smooth and flawless like they look when they're doing, how closely they resemble Michael when he, compared to how he dances versus how they're dancing. You could tell Jafar had to like really work hard to get that stuff down, but he nailed it. He nailed the big stuff, for the most part. um Give me 1 second, let me let my dog back in the house. All right, sorry about that. But so yeah, I thought Jafar did a really good job. Coleman Domingo as Joe, you wouldn't have known that it was even him, because I mean, the makeup and all of the, I guess the prosthetics and all of that, like you wouldn't have known it was even Coleman Domingo. So that was really cool how they really transformed him for the movie. And I mean, everybody, I mean, the movie is called Michael, right, for a reason, because it really focuses on Michael. But um it really, the whole Jackson 5 was really, they were in there, but they were just kind of like, to me, just sidebar, kind of like props. You know what I mean? Like the whole first half of the movie focuses on like the Jackson 5 type, during that era and stuff like that. But yeah, it was, I mean, they did a good job of making sure that Michael was always like the focal point or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I thought they did a pretty good job. Like I said, they kind of fast forwarded through the decades, just I guess to make sure that they covered all of the main stuff or whatever, which was fine because with us and our short attention spans, it worked. To me, it worked out. It worked out okay. Um, What else? Okay, so I kind of alluded to it, like, so the first thing that was the first thing that stood out to me was it really focused on the relationship between Joe Jackson and Michael Jackson, right? Father and son relationship. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing that stood out to me, um, as far as like the seriousness of things, is it kind of provided you, like I said, I think I kind of already mentioned it, which they don't really focus on the drama, they don't focus on the controversy, it doesn't focus on any of that, but they do provide, like, shed some light on certain things or certain aspects of his life, which would help kind of justify like some of the other things. I don't want to say justify, but I guess it kind of explains, you know, certain aspects of his life later on, how, why he was the way he was with certain things in his life and stuff like that. So, and I thought that was pretty cool. It wasn't like they were trying to make excuses or anything for his behavior or anything, but it just, just provides you some insight where you might be like, okay, yep, that makes sense then. Or, okay, well, yeah, it seems like that probably would, be what it is based off of, what happened in the past and stuff like that. So again, trying not to spoil the movie, but that's just one of the things that stood out as well. It's just how they were very careful. I feel like they were very careful and delicate with a lot of the things, those aspects of his life and his appearance and stuff like that. They were really careful with that, and you can tell that they were trying to. They weren't trying to be messy at all with the movie. So I appreciated that. This was really honestly just go for the entertainment. The entertainment factor. So that was another thing that stood out to me. All right. So I made like a little list so that I wouldn't forget, because I had to write this stuff down while it was fresh in my mind, the stuff that I wanted to talk about. So, and the next biggest thing was that, okay, this was probably the thing that stood out the most, is Michael spoke in affirmations all the time. At least that's what they portrayed in the movie. Like, he just spoke in affirmations, and it was like, dang, now you like the confidence and just how, Michael was as a performer and stuff. And that really, really stood out to me the most, is he was always speaking words of affirmation to himself, writing it down. He was always writing affirmations down. He was always speaking them out loud to himself, and that was something that stood out the most. And I feel like that's something that I think a lot of us could, do, if especially if you're not used to speaking affirmations. If that's not your thing, I think the way we talk to ourselves ultimately shapes, the types of choices that we make, how we feel about ourselves, you know, um, boundaries we set, with other people and how they treat us. And I mean, even with him, just speaking affirmations to himself about his appearance, like how great he was, how much he believed in himself, and just his greater vision for his life. I mean, I thought it was really beautiful, like the way that they highlighted that. And that was just another thing that just stood out to me probably the most. And I mean, yeah, it was subtle, but really powerful at the same time. So I love that about the movie. I just loved how they highlighted that about him, is how he spoke, spoken affirmations a lot of the time, um, throughout his life. And you could tell that like really helped shape and mold him as a performer and everything. So I thought that was great. And then another thing that that I absolutely loved, and this is just minor, but it was just so cute, and I absolutely loved it about the movie, was Michael was feeling the music. Like, he could not sit still. Like, that music was in him. He was feeling the beats, okay? Every when he was little, every since he was little Michael up to grown Michael. And it was just the cutest thing throughout the movie, just him just not being able to sit still and just watching him. We all get hyped when we see Michael Jackson perform. We know, how awesome he was in every, in that regard and everything. But just seeing how that music was in him, like, and how it moved him from a little kid up until his, adulthood. I absolutely loved it, because you just feel it. Like, you see him on the screen, and then you just feel it too, and you're just like, ah, yeah, okay. Like, you get hype. At least I did, or whatever. So that was another, just another aspect of the movie. It was just the best. I absolutely loved how the music moved him, and even just with him, coming up with songs and beats, and just in his head, and just how he would just, you could just tell when he would get in the zone. Like, I absolutely love that. Again, geeking out, fangirling a bit. You know what I mean? I love that they highlighted that in the movie as well. So those were like really the biggest things that, stood out to me the most in the movie. And I hope I didn't spoil it for you guys if you're still planning on going to see it or whatever. But I just had to get on here and talk about it just as a fan in general. I was really excited to go see the movie this weekend. I definitely wanted to catch it opening weekend, and I had to see it in IMAX. You just have to see those moves. You have to see those moves on the big screen. So it was a nice outing, and I really enjoyed the movie. So I encourage you, especially if for all you Michael Jackson fans out there, I definitely encourage you to go see the movie. And so yeah, that was my very informal, very try to be general review of the movie. Ultimately, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Some stuff I kind of wish they would have had. Like, I wish it would have went at least up into the 90s, at least up into the 90s. But the 80s was the best, to me, the 80s was the best decade of music, period. I don't care what genre. To me, the 80s music is always the best. And you can't say 80s without the king of pop, Michael Jackson. So I love the movie. They did a great job. And also, too, then this might be definitely a spoiler alert, but the way it ends, I think they're leaving room for maybe like a part two. It looks like it could be like another part to it. So I don't know. Again, my bad if I'm spoiling anything for you guys. I'm not trying to, but it does look like they leave room for that. So take take that what you will. I don't know. But yeah, so just wanted to hop on here, guys, and let you know what I thought of the movie. Also, too, this is day 50 of my daily YouTube journey. I may have mentioned it in some of my earlier videos that I am currently participating in a 100-day daily posting challenge. And so I am at the halfway mark, and woohoo! So what better way to, commemorate it, or mark that with going to see a movie about one of my most favorite artists ever in the history of music, Michael Jackson. So I've been having a ball trying to think of things to talk about each day with you all, as I've started my journey. And I'm getting warmed up, you know what I mean? I'm in the corner, getting warmed up before I come out, before I come out the gate on them. And I've been learning a lot about myself, about what what it takes to really be committed to YouTube. And I mean, I guess, committing to a 100-day challenge, like straight out the gate, is just kind of, 0 to 100, literally and figuratively. But I think it was the best approach for me, because I've mentioned in other videos, if I didn't just come out the gate and just start the channel while, not feeling like I was ready to or prepared, or I would have never started. I would have just kept putting it off and putting it off like I've done for so long. And so I'm just like super happy that I started this journey 50 days ago, which is crazy to think about, for 50 days. And also too, just it literally just seems like it was just like yesterday. Okay, maybe not yesterday, but like just only maybe 2, 3 weeks ago that I just started this. But it's been 50 days, y'all, which is crazy. And it just kind of goes to show you that like time is just, it goes by really fast. And so I'm just thankful and grateful for those of you who have been following me on my journey, sticking around, just hanging out with me, listen to me yap about randomness. I'm so thankful for you all. Thank you so much for watching my video. And here's to 50 plus more of daily videos. But just getting back to the movie review, let me know in the comments if you are planning on seeing the Michael movie, or if you have seen it. What did you think? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to chat with you guys about it. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.